To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true.
That was President Trump weighing in on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during his inaugural address yesterday. Joining us now on set, Democratic Congressman Jonathan Jackson of Illinois. Congressman, first, your reaction to President Trump's comments at the Capitol yesterday. I know you were in the rotunda for them.
Right. I thought it was rather dystopic. I thought it was rather morose. It was a bit dark. They were taking jabs at outgoing President Biden. Although he mentioned Reverend Martin Luther King, it'd be nice if you call him by his name, Reverend Martin Luther King. There's a salutation there to show the proper level of respect. And I didn't get the vision for the country that was uniting and bringing people forward. There were a few glimmers of something that was to be cordial, but there was lacking a lot of level of graciousness. And to contrast that with just 3 weeks earlier, being in that same rotunda to observe the remains of President Jimmy Carter and a life that was dedicated to humility and service and other things, to see the stage populated with the wealthiest concentration of people on planet Earth. If you think of just three people in Zuckerberg, Bezos, and Elon Musk, those three persons have more wealth than 170 million Americans, if you will, almost a substantial portion of the entire world. And what was the conversation on affordable housing? Where was the conversation on students in debt? Where was the conversation on workforce and development? Where was the conversation on health care? Where was the conversation on what makes America, if you will, great? I think America is great, and I don't get the again. This is the greatest America has ever been. My father has constantly told me when we have African Americans in the Senate and in the Congress and in leadership. So him turning back the hands of time is something that's very concerning.
The other thing that he did yesterday, amid a number of things that we've been talking through this morning, is the pardoning of January 6th rioters, whether they were violent or not. Your reaction as someone who works in the Capitol every day?
Disgusted. I thought it was terribly inappropriate, and to do it of all days on Reverend Martin Luther King's national holiday. These were men that were physically assaulted. These were men, these persons in the Capitol Police, these were officers, you talk about back the blue, that were physically assaulted with felony charges, that had weapons. It was videoed. So what he's essentially done is he's released a militia, people that are willing to die for him, fight for him. And there were officers that were killed that day. Officers lost their eyes. I mean, I wish people would look at the report of the cases that these men and women had gathered. The United States could not peacefully transfer its power. The Speaker of the House had to run out under guard. Someone was killed in the Capitol.
As did the Vice President. Trump's own Vice President.
Someone built a gallows to hang the Vice President of the United States. And so to encourage that sort of behavior, what I'm concerned about is after the first phase is the second wave. Let's just say 1/100th of the people that wanted to come to Washington for the Capitol riots were in attendance. There's 100 more back at home. He's inspiring this sort of sedition, insurrection. So I do wish the president much success, and I hope he turns down this sort of inflammatory rhetoric that's going to get people hurt.
One of the things that we have heard and reported on here at NBC News is that one of the focal points of the early days of this administration is going to be a show of force on ICE raids that will take place in major cities. Chicago, your hometown, is one of the places that we've reported could be a site of those. What is your community doing to prepare? Are you concerned about this?
I'm very much concerned. Prior to running for office, I also had a stint at being a college professor. And I remember one of my students coming in, and he looked very sullen. I asked him what was going on. And this was after the 2016. And he says, my father is a gentleman of Hispanic origin. He said that his father came here undocumented and consequently brought him over. And when the ICE officials came and knocked on their door, he was so upset and so felt so guilty having brought his son and put him in this position without being a full citizen. His father tried to commit suicide. And so I hate to see this level of fear that he's putting into society. We all agree there should be a strong border. We all believe that people should obey laws. And we also believe that there should be a path towards reconciliation, towards citizenship, something towards restoration. But this sort of meanness and divisiveness, and from what President Trump says is one thing, but people are going to act out on the law and on the ground is going to be something totally different. So I'm sure there are raids that have already started. People are kicking in doors. And we don't need that level of fear. And out of that fear, you get frustration, you get anger, and you get violence. So I would hope he would ratchet that rhetoric down so that we can bring America closer together, not further apart, and take the fear out of this generation.
And we haven't yet heard of those raids beginning, but certainly they could begin as soon as this week. That's what our reporting points to. Congressman Jonathan Jackson of Illinois, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.